two psychologists, that is Mercy and Irene. If you missed our last episode, kindly go and look for it. You're going to get enlightened on more about what we're going to discuss today. So we are on part 2 of the Wheel of Life, and we are going to start with one of the parts which is in the Wheel of Life, and that is environmental. And before we go even to unpacking that, I would want them to tell us more about, what is this environmental? What is it all about? Because for me, like a layman, I'll go think about, the environment itself,
the flowers.
The flowers, the cars, the trees, and all that. Yeah. You can start with Mercy here.
Yes, please. I think when you're talking about the environment, basically, fine, the trees are there and the buildings are there. But now, in this essence, we're dealing with the human being part of it.
Yes.
And part of what constitutes our environment is our relationships, like the people we stay with, your home, that is an environment, your working place, that is an environment, the church where you go. Even outside here, when you're going to board a matatu or when you're taking a cab, that is the environment. So in this essence, we are trying to see the people or the things that we interact with in our day-to-day basis. That is what I would call environment here.
What about you, Irene? How would you describe environment?
I think Mercy has really given the gist about it, because when we talk about the environment, it's basically what is around you.
Yeah.
So again, for example, because we're talking about the balance of life. So if it's a balance of life in terms of your environment, also, like, are you also taking care of where you're at, not just for yourself but for other people? Think about things like disposing of your waste. If you're a woman, how you're disposing your sanitary pads, what's your drainage system around you? Because again, we're not living just for ourselves, but we are also living in a state where we also want other people to be comfortable when we are gone, that we are living the environment that is good for them.
Wow, that reminds me of what I do in my house, asking my girls to ensure that they make their beds each and every day. I don't want to walk into their room and find it messy with clothes all over. And I've also brought them up in a way that once they're done, eating their food, they need not to wait for the house girl to come and pick the plate or the cup. They need to take it to the sink, and not only taking it there but cleaning it.
Yes.
So I think this is part of training them to ensure that they're keeping a healthy environment for them. I'm grateful to have you girls and you're full of knowledge. Blessed to have you around me. So we'll be moving to emotional area in our Wheel of Life, and I know this is where you're rich at. I'm also going to learn from you. So I don't know who goes first.
I think you go first.
All right. I think emotionally, as human beings, we can be a bag of emotions.
Yeah.
And it's important, even other than just being that bag, it's important to identify that emotion. Because yes, we've said it's this whole bag. Am I angry? Am I happy? Am I bitter? Do I have joy with me? So at the end of the day, what's your balance with the kind of emotions that you have? And it's also important to realize that the emotions that we project are a reaction to something. So we are always reacting to something. So again, like I said previously, is that how well do I know myself to be able to know how to react to certain things? So that again, I don't walk around within life as a bitter person. But then I also don't need to look like a clown where I have a happy face throughout and people are thinking, this chick is having a good life forever. But it's like nothing goes wrong with her. But it's also the reality of knowing that things, you have a high and you have a low in life. So when do you get to that point where even if you're at the high or at the low, how do you get yourself back to that balance of emotions where I am angry, so how do I deal with this anger? I am fearful, how do I deal with this fear? I am anxious, so how do I deal with this? Because like we said earlier, we kind of need to have a balance with all these other elements about the Wheel of Life.
That is very true. What about you, Mercy?
And I just adding on to what she's saying, I think going back again, environment triggers a lot in what our emotions talk about. Because when every environment that you're in portrays a different emotion about you. It's, for instance, when you're having a bad day, I can tell whether you're having a bad day or a good day, depending on how I know you as Miss depending on the dress that you choose to wear. If it is your workplace, there's an emotion that is triggered by your workplace. If you have a stressful workplace, definitely your emotions will be triggered to go into a low level. So also understanding the environment that you're in and just also plays a very big role in how you react emotionally, it's very important. Then therefore you are able now to start questioning things like, like, why do I always feel stressful when I'm in the house? What is the trigger to that stressful emotion? Maybe in an abusive relationship, and when you get into the house and you're all fearful, you're all scared, and you're wondering what is happening there, that tells you it's a red flag. You need to deal with that trigger that is triggering that emotion. And also, again, pertaining to the people that we relate with, we can have toxic people in our lives, and these people they know how to push the wrong and the right buttons, and I call them refreshers and refiners and users and people who just belittle you, they demean you. They're people who just look at you and they'll never appreciate anything about you. So every time you're in their crowd, you're feeling like you're oppressed, you're not in the right mood, you don't want to relate, and when you start getting scared of how you're supposed to relate. So also taking care of your emotions means that you're also very well aware of the environment that you're in. And if that environment is not working for you emotionally, then you need to start cutting ties and asking yourself the hard question, what is it within this environment that triggers my emotion the wrong way?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to hear that. You started by telling us to feel the emotions. I always tell those that are around me, it is very important to feel the emotions that you are in. Be it anger, be it what. Do not postpone feeling your emotions. It is very important to feel those emotions, because it's from what you feel that you're able to come up with a solution. If it is anger and you just let it, just feel it. Don't react, just feel it.
That's true.
And it's that feeling you're going to get a solution to what you're feeling. And you brought out something also very, very important. About the environment. In us, we call it the coding and the decoding. Sometimes the way we are coded depends on how we react to our environment. If I'm not coded in the right way, you'll find myself, having so many negative, emotions around me. We call them the N codes. That is the negative codes. But if you can be able to replace the N codes with the E codes, which are the empowering codes, then it becomes, your life emotionally becomes so well. It's also easy. And you're able to, have a balanced will of life. I'm grateful we've been able to tackle the emotional part of it. Now we'll be looking at the social bit, the social segment of the wheel of life. At least you've looked at the environmental part of it, and I think social was also somehow in that part. But now I want us to look at it separately. How do you see it? How would you advise us? How do you advise our viewers how to go about that social bit in the wheel of life so that they have a balanced wheel of life? Maybe I start again with you, Irene.
Okay.
I always am loving this.
Yeah, I think I love the whole element about the wheel of life, because everything is interconnected, really. When it comes to the social element, we need to understand as human beings, we are social beings. So you cannot be a kiosk, you cannot live in a silo. You need people around you. You may not need, a crowd of people, but you do need a few people in your life who can speak into your life. They can see you can speak into their lives. There are people who enrich you. There are people who basically can call you out, when things are not working well. There are people who are your cheerleaders, and there are people who will nip you and tell you, hey, I think you're going out of hand. There are people who can just nip you up and tell you calm down. And you need them. You need them, and that is what makes a balance of life. And what is important, again, coming to the element of knowing yourself, is when you ask yourself, who are these people around me, for example, who are giving me negativity? And I remember Mercy talked about toxic people, but even as much as we're looking at other people being toxic, you also need to ask yourself, am I toxic myself? Because sometimes we are so quick at shooting people and saying, I have toxicity around me, but maybe you're the toxic person and people are reacting to your toxicity. So for me, the social element needs to be a two-way thing. You know yourself, you know what is good around you, you know the kind of people you need around you. How am I socializing myself? Am I going with either two very people who are adding to my intellect, or people who are basically just reducing, they're sucking me, So we need to get to that point, just know who is in my social circles, who is there when I need my psychological uplifting, who's there when I'm feeling so low and I need someone to lift me up, or who's there to celebrate with me, because again, you just can't go on the streets and celebrate with everybody. So I think for me, that is where the social element comes in, just having people around you who are good for you,
bringing the best out.
Yes, it's important.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, Mercy?
When we think about social, as Irene has said, we are social beings, and part of us also being social beings, and in a community or a society we are so many of us, it also causes for us to have morals and values. And morals and values are what help us to stop going beyond boundaries of what is morally acceptable. Because you find that there are things like we call the universal morals and values, like killing, stealing, raping. Those are universal moral values. You cannot just go raping people, killing people, or stealing from people. That the society in itself will condemn you automatically. But now when we are coming to self-care, there are what we call personal morals and values. There are things which are morally acceptable to me, they may not necessarily be acceptable to you. So, and there are things, there are values which I believe they ought to be me as Mercy. There are boundaries which I believe I cannot cross, and they are not a problem to me. So now this brings in the balance in the wheel of life, whereby we are saying, I need to understand how Rosti carries herself, how Irene carries herself. Those are their morals, those are their values. I do not need to ascribe to what you ascribe so that I can be socially acceptable. And also you don't need to force me to ascribe to what you subscribe to so that we can be acceptable to each other. So also that brings in now the question of having boundaries. Or when I'm associating with you, how far should I go? What line should I not cross? And when associating with me, the same case we say everything is acceptable but not everything is permissible.
That is true.
Yeah, so you don't have to go being everyone because everyone is doing it. It's like a bandwagon, let's do this. What is it doing to your emotional and psychological value? Because if it's not working for me, I'm not gonna do it to please you.
That's true.
So that's where for me I cross the line. Where are your morals, where are your values, and where do they cross, and where do they put our boundaries, and where now do we say, now let's respect each other, and this is how we associate with each other.
Wow, there's something that is coming out so clear that it is not only the people that are surrounding us are toxic when we talk about toxic people. We could also be the toxic people.
Absolutely.
And this I can give an example. I can give a short story of somewhere where I worked in, most of us have worked, or some of us have worked in different places. There's a place I worked, and every time I did something, that boss used to condemn me, would not see anything good in me, would not appreciate me, and it reached to a point I thought, this person doesn't love me. And I got to a point I also thought, could this person be jealous of me? Could he be, eyeing me and I don't even know? But I came to realize that the moment I started working on myself, yes, the other person had their own issues, but I also noted I also had my own issues. At the moment I worked on myself and I decided that I am going to love myself, irrespective of the way this person is handling me. I'm going to take care of myself, irrespective of what this person is bringing to me. And that was the turning point. That mistreatment that I was getting from this boss was every time it was a defining moment after another. Every time we met, it was a defining moment. And you psychologists know what a defining moment is. And you can imagine yourself having defining moments each and every day of your week.
It becomes tiring.
It becomes tiring. You don't even have motivation for you to wake up to go to work the following day. But I'm telling you, the moment I started working on myself, everything else changed. Because even if this person came and told me, you're a good for nothing, or you make mistakes every now and then, I took it positively. Yes, I make mistakes every now and then, but you're not aware that every time you tell me I make mistakes every now and then, I retreat myself and I look at the good that I have done apart from what you're talking about. And I found myself, believing more on myself, loving myself, and this has made me even love that person. If we meet with that person on the way, because it's a place I left, you will not believe that there are times we had issues. And I think that also makes us, know more about us. That is self-awareness, which you always talk about. When you have this emotional intelligence, when you know more about yourself, your emotions, you're also able to understand the emotions of the other person, and you get a bit, easy on them. You become more kinder. You forgive more easily. Forgetting is a process. And even forgetting, I tell my people, it's not part of forgiveness. So you just forgive. Forgetting is another whole thing.
Because what I'm getting from you is that she's talking about internal locus of evaluation. You don't have to rely on other people outside there to place value on you. If you cannot be able to place that value from within, now that's where even it comes into the whole question of self-esteem, because it has to first be worked from inside. When you start appreciating and accepting who you are, as you were saying, then start working on your faults and your shortcomings and working more on your strengths so that they can now come and complement your weakness. So the moment you are able to appreciate yourself from inside, then now start reflecting. And even when you come in and you're having such a boss or any other person you're relating with who is toxic to you, it's like a reparent. So you tell me this, it's bouncing back, because that does not define me. I know first who I am from inside, even before it starts coming out from the internal environment. So I think that is what you did, and that was quite a good point of you having what we call self-actualization.
Wow.
Yes.
That is exactly what I was saying. Thank you for enriching it. You see why great minds attract.
Yes.
I would want us to look at the next element, which in the wheel of life, which is the intellectual. I know most of us have had our intellectual capacity grow each and every day. Some of us is through maybe the books that we're reading, you know, the articles that we're getting in the newspapers, in the social media, or wherever. I would want us to unpack it and maybe discuss more about this intellectual capacity. How would you help us or advise us to enrich our intellectual capacity so that our wheel of life is balanced? I'll start with you, Mercy.
I'm looking at her. I'm looking at her because I'm thinking I've already spoken, so I really should go first.
I think when we come to intellectual, the intellectual element of the wheel of life, I think it's important to understand that as we grow older, sometimes our minds tend to slow down, and you know, you find some of the mental illnesses, some of the physical illnesses like dementia. There's a high level of forgetfulness and stuff. They start coming in, but we need to get to a point where we start balancing ourselves. We tell ourselves, what more can I learn? Because again, it's important not just to sit down and discuss things that I don't want to call them low in the intellectual scale, but it's important to sit down and have conversations that I would call them make sense, so that you're able to have a meaningful conversations with different people in the different facets of life. So if, for example, you're a football fan, for example, that means you learn a lot about football. You're just not talking about that 32 piece of leather that is being kicked around by 22 grown-up men. There's more to football than that. So there's a lot that you need to do. So when it comes to the balance of life, don't say that when you clear fourth form you're done, or you finish your college you're done. Get yourself to study some of these things. Do a 1-week course. Study things that are fun. Go and do courses that probably are tertiary. If you feel you want to be someone interested in bakery, go do something in bakery. You go do pottery for all you care. Learn an instrument. So that means you're stimulating your brain cells not to die, because it's important to be able, and that's where the balance comes in. Because you can have all this financial, your physical, your social, but you cannot sit down and have an intellectual conversation with anybody. And we've seen that, people who will bling themselves and look all hot and everything, but the minute they open their mouth, you're thinking, zip it, just kind of look good there, So there's nothing really of importance that comes out or meaningful that comes out of your mouth. I mean, for example, like currently we're having the Ukraine and the Russian war. What do you know about it? Or are you sitting down discussing things that basically are not meaningful to a certain level, and it's okay. But intellectually, it's good to stimulate your brains. It's very, very important to continue stimulating your brains, God willing, until you die. And that was with the balance of life.
Wow, I'm grateful that you came in and you really talked about that. It just reminded me of the time that we've been on lockdown. We were really being challenged to ensure that we pick a course, an online course, so that we don't waste that period that we were in lockdown. And you brought it out so well. I would also like to encourage everybody else, our viewers and anybody else at home or wherever you're watching us from, you can go look for a book. Just put it in yourself that I'm going to read a book once a month. At the end of the year, you'll have done 12 books. At the end of the month, you'll have done a whole book. And from each book you'll be learning something. Pick maybe a notebook and dedicate yourself to putting down what you're learning from those books, and you're going to improve on your intellectual capacity. I always bring this buzz statement, we rock. And every time I say we rock, I expect smiles. And I tell you rock, you smile. That was beautiful. You reminded me of the time we were on lockdown, and we were being advised to ensure that we take even an online course, a 2-day, a 1 week, a 1 month, to ensure that we boost our intellectual capacity. And to our viewers, I would want to encourage us to ensure that we read something, even if it is a book a month. At the end of the year, you'll have done 12 books, and you'll not be the same as you were. So thank you so much for having us today. Keep subscribing, like us, and be sure you're going to get more from us. Thank you so much.